Hello, everyone. Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. And today is Monday, the 18th of April, 2022. Today's topic is prioritizing your job, but I want to get started with a book I haven't shown you before. This is called The Devil's Town, which is the story of Hot Springs, Arkansas during the gangster era. It's not very well known that Lucky Luciano was caught in Hot Springs, and that the Kansas City massacre that happened at the Kansas City train station in the 1930s, and that resulted in the FBI getting weapons for the first time. They were not authorized to carry weapons before that. That all originated in Hot Springs. As late as 1964, that town was the largest illegal gambling center in the country. Now, to be sure, it was not as big as Las Vegas, because Las Vegas at that time had legal gambling, but this was the largest illegal gambling center in the country. There's a dark history here, and it's covered in the book, and it actually happens to be one of my best sellers, which is somewhat surprising. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started now with prioritizing your job, or prioritizing the job. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets, even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts in heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Thus, even America's best known social activist realized that a worker should fully commit himself to his work when working. Activism can be taken up at a different time, but not integrated into his work. His first and foremost duty when working is to do his job well. It is the kind of commitment that enabled pilot Chesley Sullenberger to land his airliner in the Hudson River after losing power to both engines at a low altitude owing to a freak bird strike. He ditched the plane into the river without a solitary loss among the 155 souls on board. He was focused on doing his job. Similarly, teachers today must stick to teaching. Social activism can have a place outside the classroom, but not within it. Our 15-year-old students rank 38th out of 79 countries in mathematical ability. They rank 19th in science and 13th in reading. Yet educational position is a good predictor of a nation's future. Within the memory of many of us living today, nations like China and South Korea rank near the bottom in terms of both parameters. Both those countries now rank near the top. America's present standing as the economic and political leader of the free world was earned by earlier generations. Our traditions, including those concerning education, put us on that top. Now you got people like Biden who are casting it all aside. But even though we stand on the we stand on the shoulders of the accomplishments of those who came before us, many social activist teachers smear the reputation of historical leaders. They urge students to tear down the icons of some of our best leaders, and they even lie about these leaders, including Robert E. Lee. Among all the commanders on either side of the Civil War, General Lee became the most beloved one by the men who served under him, because he led by example. He shared his soldiers' hardships, commonly making his headquarters in a tent instead of appropriating the home of a nearby plantation owner, as did Union General Grant and many others. Instead of indoctrinating students to despise Lee, America's teachers should focus on improving their student rankings in mathematics, science, and reading. That is the legacy that they can pass on to future generations, but they are badly performing on that. When teaching American history, they must stop pretending that earlier generations of teachers failed to teach of America's flaws. They did teach of America's flaws. Those earlier teachers did not teach that slavery was good or that the Ku Klux Klan was nonviolent. Therefore, there is no need to teach critical race theory and the so-called anti-racist remedies to it. In fact, CRT is a poison that propagates the falsehood that racism is not merely the product of individual prejudice, but is systemically embedded in America's society and its legal system in order to facilitate racial inequality. Nonetheless, one outspoken teacher that holds a particular dislike for Southerners tweeted his followers that the parents opposing the woke school boards in Virginia presently are themselves the children of parents who were taught a so-called lost cause mythology in a 1957 history textbook used in the state. He is blind to the fundamental flaw in his argument, which is that the parents now challenging the school boards were taught Virginia history from a different text, one that did not teach the so-called lost mythology. Okay, so that's my message for today. And again, the Devil's Town, what is it? Hot Springs during the gangster era. I think this is $20, I think. And you can get it at Amazon. If you'd like an autographed copy, contact me, Phil, PHIL _ Leigh, LEIGH @me.com. Okay, that's our show for today. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.